What happens when you reassign values to function arguments in JavaScript? Let's take a look. So we've got a simple bit of code here where we've got a function which takes two types of arguments. The first is the inside score, which is a number, and then an inside user, which is an object. And then we create variables that hold those bits of information and pass them to the function, and then we're just logging out those two values inside the function and outside the function too. So I've already said that both of these arguments are going to be passed in by value, but let's see how modifying them inside the function actually changes their value. So let's have a look at inside score to start off with. Let's just assign that a new value. Let's just say it's 0, for example. And as you'd expect, because that variable is kind of scoped to this local function, if we actually modify the value inside there, we can see that in the output we get the value of 0, but it doesn't actually modify the value that's stored in the outside variable that's been passed into the function. And as you can see in the output outside the function, the variable of outside score is still set to 100. So we can be pretty confident that the value that we've passed into that function has been passed in by value. We've made a copy of it, and changing it inside the function has no effect on the original variable that holds that value. So if we were to make a similar change to the inside user object that's inside of our function, we would expect, if this was passed by reference, that if we assigned it a new value, a new object, that reference would then change, and this would then affect the outside user variable that's down here. And then we should see the same object logged out here that is going to be logged out inside of here too, but as you'll see, that doesn't actually happen. So let's just say the type is manager, and I'm going to go back in my time machine and go back to 20 years old. So inside the function, the inside user has received the new object that we've created, but this hasn't affected the outside function output. And you can see we've still got the original object that was assigned to that outside user variable. So this is the difference between passing by reference and passing by value, because if inside user had been passed as a reference, then giving it a new reference would actually change everything that's using that object outside of the function too. But JavaScript actually passes by sharing objects. So if we actually make a change to this inside user argument that's been passed in, then we will actually affect the object outside of the function too. So let me demonstrate that just by changing a certain property on the object that's been passed in. So let's say we'll change the type equal to manager. And what you should find is that in the output that we see in the console below, that inside the function, the object has been updated, but this has also updated the object outside of the function as well. So I think this is what the author had originally intended to demonstrate, is that if you pass in an object or an array into a function and then start messing around with its properties or adding things to it, it can affect the original object outside of the function that's been passed in. So if you are going to be doing that, as we've seen, you can actually assign a new object to the object that's been passed in, or what you would do is ideally create a deep copy of that object, and then you can be free to actually make changes to it and then return that new object if you want from that function, if you want to make sure it's updated somewhere else. So if you want to see an example of how to create a deep copy of an object in JavaScript, then you should check out this next tutorial where we go through that in detail. But hopefully this has demonstrated to you how JavaScript works with arguments and how it passes by sharing, but it does not pass by reference. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.